First of all, let me introduce the team that'll be with me here to share some details on Halo Nightfall. First up, we've got Kiki Wolfkill from 343 Industries. We've got David Zucker, who's the president of television for Scott Free Productions. And now you're going to meet some of the stars of Halo Nightfall. We've got Mike Colter, who plays Locke from Nightfall and Halo 5. Probably saw some images of him on the internet earlier this week. Learn much more about him. We've also got Christina Chong, who is in the Nightfall cast. You will learn about her character momentarily. Christina, welcome. Came in all the way from London. And finally, we've got Frank O'Connor. You Halo fans know Frankie. No one can stump Frank with the Halo trivia. He's been doing Halo for many years, and these guys are all here to talk about Halo Nightfall. So let's get right into it. But before we talk to these guys, we have a very special message from a man you may know, Mr. Ridley Scott. Check this out.
Hello, I'm Ridley Scott, and I'm here to introduce or talk about Halo Nightfall. This is a first for me, because I've never really been involved with a game before, the making of a game, even though I think a few of my movies have been cribbed on games, for sure. I recognize a lot of them. And so here I get to, as a producer, climb into the universe of Halo, and actually by climbing into the universe of Halo, it's not just a visual universe. That means it's also a characterized universe with various characters of which we're going to introduce a new person into this, but the panel will talk about him later. Our director, Sergio, and his team did a fantastic job, and the panel are going to show you what they got up to and what they put together. You're going to see a bit of a bite of that very shortly, and I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. Mr. Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is executive producer on this project, and Dave will tell us a bit more about how Scott Free's been involved in the production of this. And this panel is, really the first time you guys are going to hear a lot of details on the story of Nightfall. And as Kiki and Frank, I'm sure, tell you, this is a lead-in to Halo 5 Guardians that's going to be coming out in 2015. So you're going to get a lot of cool info about Nightfall and also some hints about Halo 5. So let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to show you before we get to the panel is the world premiere, really the first time you guys are going to see the key art for Halo Nightfall. You'll get a chance to see Mike and Christina in character. So let's take a look at that right now, the world premiere of the key art for Halo Nightfall. There you can see. Locke right up front. We'll be talking a lot more about those characters and the Halo ring that you can see in the back there. But a couple things about Halo Nightfall, just to describe to you guys what Halo Nightfall is. Halo Nightfall is a new feature-length sort of series that's coming out over 5 episodes that'll be out later this year, and it will come as part of the Master Chief Collection, which is coming out on November 11th. If you guys don't know what Master Chief Collection is, it's a collection of all the Master Chief Halo games. They've been remastered, so even Halo 1 and 2 will be available on Xbox One this November, and that's your key to unlock Nightfall, which will sort of tease Halo 5, and the Halo 5 multiplayer beta will also be included as part of the Master Chief Collection. So you guys can start watching this series on November 11th, but this audience right here will be the first people in the world actually to see footage of Halo Nightfall, and that is coming up very shortly. But to tell us a little bit more about sort of what Halo Nightfall is and how it fits into everything, I'm going to turn it over to Kiki from 343. Kiki's been doing a lot of stuff at Xbox over the years, and now really leads a lot of the efforts with Halo's expanded universe. So Kiki, tell us Halo Nightfall, what is it all about?
Well, we're going to world premiere yet another asset for you in a moment, give you a first look at some of the footage and some of the story. But I think just at a very high level, and I'll ask Frank to jump in a moment, I think what you'll see with the story really is sort of the expertise of Ridley Scott and Scott Free in the sci-fi genre, and sort of the sci-fi voice that they bring, as well as their skills in really creating sort of a resonant character story. And all of that sort of very deeply seated in the Halo universe. with our characters, and I think it really reflects some of the themes that I think are important for us in Halo that we try and seed through all of our efforts. So I'll have Frank give a little bit of a story synopsis, but I'll just say I'm very excited because I feel like we kind of have the makings of this amazing sort of intense action thriller, but really at the core of it is this very sort of intimate character story about this set of characters and how in the face of sort of extraordinary circumstances, how they sort of evolve both together and separately. And I think it's going to be a very sort of unique Halo story. But I'll let Frank explain a little bit more before we look at the video.
Yeah, it's as Kiki said, it's obviously dealing with themes that we deal with in the Halo universe, and I think with our last project, Forward Unto Dawn, we took a sort of a look at the past of the Halo universe. This takes place very much kind of in the present in terms of the kind of game timeline. You can see some clues to that even in the key art. You'll see the wreckage of a burning Halo there. This story takes place in two very distinct places. One is a distant outer colony world, a world that feels it was somewhat abandoned by the UNSC during the Covenant War. There's some resentment, some bitterness, but they still rely very heavily on the UNSC. And when they receive a bunch of visitors from the Office of Naval Intelligence, some of those tensions really come to the surface. And we see a little bit of division and a little bit of fracturing that you might not expect from the Halo universe. So we'll deal with the politics there. And those politics and that tension really come to a head when they leave the safety of that colony world, or the relative safety, and head to a fragment of the Halo ring from the first game. When the Halo ring was destroyed, one of its safety measures was to try and slip space its way to safety. And it didn't quite make it to safety. So we see a little fragment. One of the engines, in fact, has made it to a place that's absolutely not safe, and that's going to drive a lot of the rest of the story. And I won't give away too much more than that.
We'll talk a little bit more.
Well, we're going to get a bit of a tease now, Kiki.
Yeah.
You guys just finished shooting this literally weeks ago. I know we'll get into it. These guys were up in Iceland after E3. Mike and Christina, I know you guys just literally wrapped up production, but you guys have put together a little tease for folks, right?
Yes, we may still be jet lagged, actually.
A little bit.
So our very talented director, Sergio, is feverishly editing right now in London, but we wanted to put a little story together to show you guys, so I will give you this little teaser.
All right, here's the world premiere of the teaser for Halo Nightfall. You guys are the first people to ever see this. Check it out.
You're saying they got their hands on a compound that selectively kills humans and nothing else?
It's not a compound, an element.
This is on you. You know that, don't you? They weren't after us, they were after you, UNSC. Because you were operating here on our soil.
People 8-10 kilometers away are being affected.
Be a bold move. Send a team in, destroy the deposits, and nab whoever it is that's mining the stuff.
Couldn't find out what he was carrying, but found out where it came from. He says it's sourced from a place that no one will go. He says it's sourced from hell.
You guys think? It's good, right? So that's your first look at Halo Nightfall. That'll be up on the web a little bit later, so you can tell your friends to watch, or you can watch it again. David, I wanted to turn to you quickly to talk about Scott Free's involvement in this. We heard from Ridley. I think it's really exciting. This is the first time that you guys have really kind of played in the video game world. Halo is obviously a property that all of us gamers love very much. What was sort of attractive to you guys about partnering up with Xbox on this and 343? And also, I mean, what were your goals with this?
I mean, as when it was first presented to us, I mean, Ridley's response was it's a no-brainer.
Right.
To be able to, as a world builder, as he's done iconically in so many films and something we've been inspired by on the TV side, to be able to take a universe like this and literally see the realization of it, see and discover the humanity in it, to tell at one side, the morality tale, some great human drama, but also to take advantage of the crafts, the world, the vision, that universe that Halo is, and discover it in a whole new way. That was something that was irresistible, and the partnership's been spectacular.
Yeah, well, it looks pretty good, right? You guys like the production value, and it feels like, the live-action Halo that we've wanted to see. Now, Kiki, this is not the first time, the Halo brand has sort of extended outside of the video game world. I know, 343 has done a lot of stuff over the years. You guys probably have seen Forward Unto Dawn, which was done a couple of years ago as well, another live-action expression. Tell us about sort of the evolution of how you guys have sort of approached kind of, transmedia storytelling, for lack of a better term, in Halo, and how this sort of fits into that evolution.
It's my favorite term, Geoff.
That's right. I wanted to get it in there.
I think we've always sort of endeavored to sort of dramatize stories sort of outside and around the games in different ways and in different forms. So I think with Halo Legends, with some of our commercial endeavors, we've done things in live action and CG and anime and short form and, most recently the digital series with Forward Unto Dawn. And I think for us, this really is sort of both an expansion and an evolution from that history across the board in a lot of different ways. I think from a goals perspective, part of it for us has always been getting a different creative perspective on our universe, because I think it just makes it that much deeper and richer. And selfishly, I would say I'd like to think it makes us better storytellers across our experiences as we sort of learn with each of these efforts. I would say we're definitely sort of very intrigued with this idea of telling complementary and sort of connected stories, and this idea that we can build these sort of cross-experience story arcs. With Forward Unto Dawn, we did play with some crossover characters. This is the first time we've really gone with such a sort of pivotal character and focusing on him both in Nightfall and in Halo 5. So that was a new experience for us. And I think we're always trying to explore how do we create these sort of meaningful connections between these stories that we create outside of the games and the game themselves. And so with Nightfall, we're also exploring some interactive features, which we'll talk about at Gamescom, that really will start to bridge these experiences a little more seamlessly and hopefully in some exciting new ways.
Very cool. Well, we're excited to learn more about it. As you mentioned, Locke as a character, as many of you probably know, is Mike is starring in Nightfall, but will also be I don't know if this has been announced yet, but we announced that you'll also be starring in Halo 5, the game. So you're going to be playing Locke in Halo 5 as well, which is really cool. It'll be sort of that crossover, which I think is really cool, that the character will sort of continue. And as you can see on the key art there for Halo 5, Locke is a big part of the game and will be playable as well in Halo 5. So it's Master Chief and also Locke. We'll get into that, I'm sure, down the road. But Frank, let's talk a little bit about the characters, as we saw in the key art there, Locke. We're talking about Christina's character as well, Macer. But tell us, who are these characters? I mean, how do they fit into the Halo lore?
The factions are recognizable. We have some Office of Naval Intelligence agents, but we also have some Colonial Guard. Christina, to my right, is a member of that force, and she's in some ways kind of a vector for the audience's curiosity about the Office of Naval Intelligence. She's smart. She's curious. Macer, I don't know how curious Christina is, but and she's not quite as resentful as the rest of the Colonial Guard. They feel like they were abandoned by the UNSC during the Covenant War. And there's some tensions there, and some sort of economic and political tensions, even as the sort of threat of war is creeping towards them. Something bad happens on Cedra, and the Office of Naval Intelligence guys happen to be there. Estrin and Horrigan. We actually have don't we have a couple of guests in the audience, Kiki? Do you want to?
We do, actually. We have Christian Contreras, who plays Ramos, and Alex Spod in the audience, who plays...
More cast amongst you all.
Yep.
And it's an awesome cast that you guys have put together. Mike, I wanted to ask you, I noticed in the bios that you and David have a link in The Good Wife, and that he's executive producer. You've been on Good Wife.
We were inspired by the crossover opportunities.
Locke and Good Wife, maybe not. But I mean, tell us about your character, Locke, from your perspective, Mike, and I mean, getting involved in this project, because this is obviously a multi-year thing for you, and that you're doing Nightfall this year and then Halo 5 next year. So how did this all come about?
Yeah, you know, I saw the script, and that's where it started. I first saw just sides, which were just Locke's sides, to scenes that I had no perspective
With a different name, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, not to mention that the name Locke wasn't used until maybe after production was shot. I mean, it was Locke forever, but in the script it was called Marlowe, which has been leaked, I think, several times over, but it's Locke. So
code name.
Code name was Marlowe. Which I kind of grew kind of fond of, actually. I was getting kind of fond of that, but anyway. So when I got the script, I really liked the character. I just really gelled with his point of view, and I think as you guys gamers will see, when you see the film, hopefully when you start to play the game, you'll get connected with Locke's character, and when you experience the game, you'll experience it through his point of view and how he interprets things, because this story is an origin story, and what we do as actors, we tell stories from the point of view of the character. Filmmaking is about character perspective and development of character, and this is an origin story, so I was really drawn to it because of that, because it was a character that showed vulnerability, power, he acted with logic. He was a strong character, but he was still in the developmental stage, so he had a journey that he was going to go on, and I was really interested in seeing where he was going to go, so that's what drew me to this project, and I had heard of Halo before, so Halo is a huge success, and I want to be a part of something this big. So.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Halo family. We're excited to have you in here. I know on the internet, when we showed some photos the other day, people really love sort of, your character being involved in the universe, so I'm sure we'll find out much more about Locke. And as you said, what's cool, this is an origin story, so obviously we'll lead into the events of Halo 5 that'll come out in 2015. Now, Christina, you've had an amazing year so far. You may have seen her in 24 this year. Lots of rumors, maybe in the new Star Wars film, or at least I've read that on the internets. I don't know what you can or can't say about that, but obviously Halo Nightfall is a huge opportunity for you to be involved in this series. Tell us about your character and your getting this role. I heard that your boyfriend was pretty excited when he found out it was Halo, right?
Yeah. So I went for the audition and found out I got the role, and I'd heard of Halo. Interestingly enough, I bought my manager the Halo 4 video game for a present a couple of years back, but I didn't know how huge it was. So I was excited that I got the role. And it's action. I love action, and I was like, oh yeah, I got this job, Halo. What? You got Halo? So obviously now I know how huge it is and how amazing it is. And yeah, so I play Mesa, who's a Cedran soldier. And she's, as Frank was saying, she's very brave, she's intelligent, smart, fiercely proud of her people, her home. And she, although, she's very loyal, especially to her commanding officer, who we saw the first scene on the teaser trailer, is a character called Aiken, who's her commanding officer. She's very, loyal to him. But she's also very ambitious, and she has this she knows there's more out there for her. And when she meets the Oni guys, she realizes this is an opportunity to kind of prove herself and prove that she can be an elite soldier too. And slowly throughout the show, she, her and Marlo do have a bit of friction at the beginning because, Marlo, duh. This is how bad it was throughout the whole shoot. We were all calling him Marlo. Locke, sorry. Yeah, there's a bit of friction at the beginning because the Oni guys see her just as a private first-class soldier and nothing more, where she knows she's more than that. And so, I guess. And so she brings it up. She kind of, there's a bit of friction there, and I think Locke respects her for that. And slowly the trust between the two characters begin to grow, which sees them through the hard times Frank was mentioning.
Right. Now, Frank, we saw in the Halo 5 art, obviously Locke appears to become a Spartan. This obviously is kind of an origin story that will obviously, I guess, build into that, and this will be a link between sort of, there will be a link between Nightfall and Halo 5, obviously, right? Narratively?
Yeah. With Forward Unto Dawn, we had a fairly light connection between the one of the characters who shows up, and it's not quite a cameo role, but it's not a pivotal role, whereas the difference here is we're giving the audience for Halo 5 a really interesting perspective on Locke. Like, if you don't watch Nightfall, then first you're an idiot, and then secondly, it won't affect your ability to enjoy and play Halo 5. But I think it will give people a really compelling insight into Locke's character. Just like as Mike said, it's the kind of the origin of a superhero in a way, and we certainly think of Spartans as superheroes. Locke's a little bit more complicated than just an all-American boy, though, and I think there's going to be some nuance and layering to his character in both of these things, in Nightfall and in Halo 5, that fans will become attached to. But you will get to go on that journey with him, both sort of metaphorically and literally through the game.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about sort of Cedra. Christina mentioned, obviously being a soldier, and also this Halo ring that we see in the key art at the end of the teaser trailer. There's a link, obviously, I think, back to the original Halo with that ring, right?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to do two very opposite things. One is show what's normal life like in the 26th century, and we figured the best place to do that was the most normalized place. Earth has been through a lot, obviously, but the colony worlds they're a mixed bag. You've got everything from Reach, which didn't fare so well, to some of the colonies that were simply abandoned economically and politically, and that's exactly what Cedra is. So they're scrappy, they're sort of agricultural and industrial-based society. They don't have a lot of money, they don't have a lot of political sway, and they don't have a lot of influence in the Earth government and the United Nations Space Command. But what they do have is some brave soldiers and a couple of secrets, and those will be revealed in the film. The Halo, on the other hand, is a thing that everyone is familiar with. This was, I think, a big deal for us. We try to make these things on a small scale and figure our way up to the top. And I think setting it on a Halo is a pretty big statement about the scale of this project. And we found a great place for the Halo in the shape of Iceland. But this is a partially functioning fragment of the Halo ring. And its nature, its behavior, and its functionality play really specific roles in the fiction. And some of you guys who are really deep into the lore can start to figure out what that means with the idea of a slip space drive, the way that gravity and atmosphere function on the Halo. They create a lot of threats and a lot of peril. And in my view, the Halo ring becomes, or this fragment of the Halo ring becomes kind of a character in itself, and definitely a dark, almost malevolent character, just because of the nature of the circumstance it has found itself in.
I just want to say, that was also something that was exciting about the partnership, is we were able to obviously draw liberally from all that's been established in the Halo world, but at the same time we had the freedom to really discover what worlds, what stories, what characters we may want to create. And not only 343 was extraordinarily encouraging of that, but then everything then obviously integrated with what they established, and hopefully something that's totally seamless between the game and all of the new original character and material we got from Paul Shearing, who wrote the script, who created Prison Break. It was from his original idea. He wasn't that acclimated to Halo when he came upon this opportunity. And then Sergio, who did a spectacular job, and in working with 343 to realize it.
Yeah, because obviously the character of Locke, I know, was something that sort of 343 have been working on, but a lot of the build-out, Christina's character, all that was sort of Paul and the team sort of collaborating to sort of build out this world, I guess, right, and the origin of it?
Yes.
Oh, awesome, very cool. That's what you said. Well, let's talk about some of the locations and where you guys shot this. As Frank mentioned, you look at Iceland, and just how beautiful it looks. And I think one unique thing about this project is certainly, when I saw the footage and I saw a lot of the photos, a lot of physical sets. I'm sure there will be lots of visual effects in the film, but this is not, shot on a green screen by any means. Tell us about the decision I think you filmed in Iceland and then also in Ireland?
Northern Ireland. Yes. One of the things, again, drawing from, I think, how Ridley approaches a lot of his films was wanting the credibility, the authenticity of this to be as real and as immediate as possible. So inevitably there is the visual effects component, but when we were looking for locations, we really wanted to find an environment that obviously fulfilled the script as it was drafted, but one in which you could feel the texture, you could feel the heat, or in this instance, one might question how much heat there was, but we looked basically at New Mexico, Morocco, South Africa, Iceland, and I mean, Iceland I think is one of the most volcanically active places in the world, so where better, I mean, NASA trained for the moon landing there, you know, where better to discover and create our futuristic world than in one that is literally being created if you go visit there. Right before you. And Northern Ireland, where Game of Thrones is done, as we had to find an appropriate area for Cedra, not only had a great crew, some great rebate opportunities, so we could get as much money on the screen as possible, but they turned out to be perfectly complementary opportunities in terms of our location.
Wow.
And I think it was, you know, sort of having Ridley's perspective on the more practical locations and Sergio's aesthetic and really grounding the film in a real place, I think aligns really well with the Halo aesthetic. And, you know, we've always sort of endeavored to build this future that's very grounded in things that we can see now and understand now. So it aligned really well with sort of our natural instincts.
And you guys were up against the elements?
Yeah. So on this planet, the piece of the halo ring, the temperature is meant to be about 50 degrees C. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but
around 100 plus.
100 plus.
100 plus.
Yeah.
So, but in Iceland, it was felt like about -4.
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, some of those photos, I was in like a little vest top for most of the time. So it was freezing. And yeah.
Yeah, as you can see right there, that's a picture of us. We're in a sandstorm. We're not wearing those goggles, I promise you, in the film, but they were necessary. Every element you could think of, we encountered. Windstorm, rainstorm. Only thing we were missing was like literally
tornadoes.
Probably locusts, maybe. I think
We
that's
had
what
the bugs.
locusts.
We had
There's Kiki and Frank.
kind of storm. We
Yeah,
didn't
I mean, guys, it's the uniforms. When I signed on, I got to tell you, full disclosure, I didn't even cross my mind how difficult it would be to shoot in these uniforms, this armor. It's amazing to look at, and after you wear it for about an hour, you go, wait a minute, I have to use the bathroom at some point. And that's when you start to think about all the things you can't do when you're in this uniform. But we fought through the elements, and I think it made for a great project, but we definitely had our backs against the wall. There were days I was thinking, oh my God, could it rain anymore? Could we fall anymore? Could it get any hotter? So I'm hoping when you see the film that you see all the hard work we put into it, but it was a pleasure doing it.
It was pretty extraordinary to watch these guys in particular because, you know, we're out there and literally we would just have 6 layers of down and fleece and hats and glasses, and these guys are out there, especially in some of the scenes, in literally t-shirts and tank tops, and I have to hand it to them because it was brutal, and these guys were complete pros.
Yeah, that was a good day. That was a good day right there.
That was a good day.
One day of sun.
This is beautiful weather. This I think we had 2 days the entire shoot that looked like that was a nice day. That was a good day, yeah. Wow. That was another good day, yeah.
It's all the same day.
It's all one day. One day we took all the shots from that day, yeah. The same day.
Now, this was also, you know, a pretty epic shoot in terms of the stunts, and I know, Christina, like you went through, there was like parkour training, and there was a lot of stunt work. Can you tell us about some of the sort of the action that you guys were involved in? And I know we, you know, haven't seen a ton of that yet, but it sounds like there are a lot of big vehicles, big sequences in the game.
My favorite was we had a lot of abseiling and which is called rappelling here, I think. So rappelling and rock climbing rehearsals and practicing before the shoot. And the abseiling has probably got to be one of my favorite stunts that I did. And it was just incredible coming down this rock face in this amazing, beautiful surroundings at height. It was incredible. There was lots of running up and down steep hills over this rugged terrain. I'm surprised nobody twisted their ankle.
Oh, yeah.
There was lots of like running through rivers, streams.
Yeah, falling was something that we did daily. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty much, it was just going to be.
We actually had a bet, didn't we?
It was a matter
Anyone
of-
who fell
Had to buy a round.
had to buy a round. If you fell on camera,
On
you had to
screen,
buy a
on
round.
screen, not when the camera wasn't rolling. The camera had to be rolling, it had to catch you on camera falling, and you had to drop your weapon. That's part of it.
How many times did you fall, Mike?
I didn't fall on screen.
Oh,
I saved my
I
falls
saw you
off
fall on screen a few times.
That was intentional. Actually, that was part of the character. It was built in for
and not to
dramatic
take-
purposes because I was going up a hill. So you'll see, it looks really real because that's how it's supposed to look. Yeah.
And not to take anything away from the guys, but Christina was by far the most physically adept of all of you.
Oh my
You guys
God.
were just, like,
Okay.
flailing arms.
Can I answer that? Can I retort to that? I will just say this: Christina had the best shooting schedule of us all. There were many times I was wondering where she was, and she was in the Condor. She was floating above our heads in space while we were on the planet. But she did come down eventually, and that's when we got really interesting. But there were days I was wondering where Macer was.
I was whale watching.
Yeah, she was whale watching in Iceland. But she's a wonderful, wonderful asset to have.
I don't know if we should draft on that to the one of the unique challenges as well was the casting of this, because there were certain physical aspects, aside from wanting the best quality actors we could find. They needed to be tall, which isn't always a directive when undertaking a project, and they needed to have a certain physical acumen. And it was a bit startling, particularly in our casting, which primarily took place in London. That when asked this question, and not that actors ever misrepresent themselves, but it seemed like every actor in England is a boxer, a triathlete. They train regularly. And I'd say one or two of those actors, who we won't name, managed to pull hamstrings in the first day and need constant treatment through the second week. And I don't think, we never quite got the sort of alignment between what the claims were, except on Christina's. Of course, she fulfilled what she claimed.
Oh, yeah.
And Americans don't misrepresent their physical.
No, we don't.
No.
But they also didn't ask me any of these questions.
Oh,
I was shocked. They tricked me. I didn't even know that I was be doing anything. I thought I would just be standing around and walking and talking. I had no clue there was any running or jumping involved. They got me on that one.
Because the work on Good Wife really told us what our ability.
That makes sense. Now, any project like this, you want to balance kind of action, but also sort of character story and drama. And Frank, I know with this project, as Mike mentioned, linking into Halo 5. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about these characters as well, right?
Yeah, and in Mike's case in particular, he had, as David mentioned, casting is always a challenge because the cast makes the thing. But when Mike had to straddle two worlds, he had to be a great screen actor, which we knew he was, but he also had to do something he'd never done before, which is voice acting and motion capture and facial capture, which is its own thing. It's a really distinct, different set of acting skills. And spanning it isn't simply just being the same character in two things. You have to think really differently about how those performances span the two mediums, and they are very different.
Absolutely. And you've done a little work on Halo 5 so far, right? Probably can't tell us anything about it. But.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you the whole story and all the features if everyone has time.
Just cut to the chase.
But Mike, you've been working a little on Halo 5, right?
Well, we've started voice sessions, and so it's underway. There's a lot of work to be done, so I'm stretching every day. I'm doing all the calisthenics I can think of to make sure that I'm prepared to deliver the performance that you fans deserve. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a whole new medium for me. I'm excited about it. I was just saying to my representation, I was like, man, I would love to get into the voiceover world and see what that's about. And here you go.
Right.
Now, it pays pretty well.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of Halo fans are wondering about, in Nightfall, some of the things that we may see. Like, will there be a pelican? Will there be other things that will be sort of familiar to Halo fans? Can you guys tell us anything about sort of, some of the things we can look forward to in Nightfall without spoiling anything?
Well, Mike kind of spoiled something by mentioning the Condor.
Yeah.
So maybe Frank, you want to introduce the new vehicle known as the Condor.
We don't have a pelican in the show, but we do have a Condor, which is a new vehicle in the Halo universe, and it's kind of a medium-sized transport craft that's equipped with slip space engines. So think about it. We were calling it originally the Super Pelican, And that's really what it is. It's like a mid-range transport that the Cedrons have because they can't afford, big battle cruisers and stuff like that. I think one of the craziest moments for me during the whole shoot was walking into the warehouse in Northern Ireland where they had built it in real, this is the inside of it, it's life-size. Wow. It's the front section, and it's bigger than the nose cone of a Boeing 747 all up. And just walking into the warehouse and seeing that thing, and you could go in it, and you could climb it, and it has 2 flight decks, and it's got loads of seats and
We
airbags.
pretended to fly it, Frank and I.
We did try and fly it.
No seatbelts,
Yeah,
though.
it didn't work out great. So.
Awesome. Well, it looks incredible what you guys have put together so far with sort of the early look at the production elements of it. What do you guys think so far of Halo Nightfall? Well, I'm sure there's going to be lots more to share about it. Kiki, I know, as I mentioned, it'll be coming out in November, and you guys are sort of deep into post-production now, so I'm sure there'll be more hints leading up to November, right?
A few, here and there.
A few more. But this audience got to see it
Yeah.
first. Well, we also got time for questions for you guys. If you want to start lining up, we'll be able to answer questions. The whole panel will be here, able to answer questions on everything related to Nightfall. But I guess before we get to the questions, I want to, this obviously is a really ambitious project. You guys, as mentioned, just finished shooting it. It'll be coming out in November. It's cool for me as someone who's covered gaming for so long to see sort of the world of gaming expanding with, sort of credible extensions like this is going to sort of add lore to the world of Halo. For all of you, and just go down the panel, what would you sort of summarize as sort of, your takeaway, the moment, it could have been a moment on set or something that you will really sort of take away from this project as something that was really memorable to you personally, whether it's related to the game or just experiences traveling to places like Iceland and Northern Ireland. Kiki, maybe start with you.
Wow, that's a tough one. It was a pretty extraordinary experience for me, obviously, coming from the game side to sort of get a little more time on set and watching all of these guys work. I would say that when I showed up in Iceland, I'd been in Ireland and came back for E3, and I showed up in Iceland at the glacier, and it was just such an extraordinary place to be, and you're standing out there, and there's just this sort of giant, complex machine, which is the production out in the middle of nowhere. And, for a moment, I just looked around, and the scenery was so extraordinary and so Halo, and it really just felt like for a moment in time, I was sort of in this story that we were creating, and it just kind of blew my mind. When you're used to sort of creating these worlds on a computer, to be in a real life place and seeing this story really being created literally in front of your eyes, it pretty much blew me away.
Cool. I remember Instagramming a lot of cool photos from
I was
set.
trying to be secretive and yet still share the experience at the same time.
No, it's absolutely beautiful, and it shows on screen. David, you've been involved in a lot of productions, obviously, in the television world. What's your takeaway? What was unique about this one to you that you're going to remember?
Well, in the true spirit of partnership, I almost want to answer it the same way Kiki did. The person I don't think we've given enough shout out to here is the director, Sergio Mimitzigazan, who we had the pleasure to work with years ago on Pillars of the Earth. He's done Battlestar Galactica and Heroes. And, to Kiki's point, first of all, the chance to do anything in Iceland was not only a personal ambition. It took 7 years, but we finally found a project to go there with. And seeing Kiki with her first Icelandic horse, that's a memory I'll always remember. Because the horses exist nowhere else on Earth. If they leave Iceland, they can't come back, and there is no other Icelandic horse outside of Iceland. Nope. But that's not my Greth's memory. But it really is as she described. It's like you wake up each day. I still am amazed and will have the chance to see Sergio's cut in the next few weeks. But the orchestration of this, the magnitude of it, and the fact that, again, it was realized as practically as possible. Just to be a part of those landscapes and breathing that air and seeing those mountains and all that's before you, but then the creation, as Frank was mentioning, the actual construction of these ships, and the first time you go out into the sound stages, first time you see Mike, Christina, and the cast in their armor and things light up, and sometimes they don't always work, but oftentimes they do. And you literally see the pieces and component parts of this come together. And that's sort of the magic and fascination of the whole experience. And to be a part of that with what 343 has, so magnificently created over the course of Halo's history, it's just a real thrill to be part of that and hopefully contribute to it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike?
It's, I've been thinking about this experience that kind of lingers and stays with you for a long time. I thought of many instances, but now listening to them talk about it, the perspective of production and how it all comes together, but then going back again to the script and the experiences, giving some praise to Sergio and also Paul with the script itself. As actors, we look for something we can sink our teeth into and that we can get our hands around and moments that mean something. And I think as gamers, you guys know the world that the characters are so far out there. It's so heroic. It's so adrenaline pumping, and sometimes you miss the human element of it. And I feel like with this project, we're going to give you a little bit of that. And I remember specifically this moment with Kiki mentioned, this waterfall. We were in this area that was literally right below the glacier where the volcano that erupted about 4 years ago that shut down flights going back and forth from Europe. That volcano, we were literally right beside it. And you think of where we were, and we look at the backdrop and the landscape, and then we're playing a scene where we had a casualty. And I won't go into any more details, but there are casualties. People do end up not making it. I'm not going to say who, but
I got a splinter.
Yeah,
I was very, very upset about it.
Yeah, I was very, the scene. You just forget, like, this is about humans and people we lose, and so that's, as actors, I enjoyed the fact that Sergio never missed those moments, and it's a big production. There's lots of things going on. He's got a lot on his plate, and through the writing and through Sergio's eye as a director, we were able to make sure we found those moments. And there were times where the days are long, and we were able to make sure we found those pieces, even if it was just after 4 or 5 takes or 10 takes, because sometimes we did 10 takes. That's just the nature of the beast. We had a lot of moving parts, but we got it together and brought it together. And then, but originally, I would like to say, as far as Iceland's concerned, I loved Iceland, but on the way from Belfast, we took a little detour of sorts. We were flying from Belfast to Iceland, and that in itself is a big journey, because we have to take all of the equipment from Belfast to Iceland. So we chartered this huge, or they chartered, I didn't charter anything, they chartered this huge jet. And so we were flying along, getting ready to go to Iceland. I was getting excited, and the airline pilot comes across and he says, we're going to be landing in Scotland for 24 hours. And I'm going, what? Did you? And literally he said that no one, he must be joking. No, we literally had to land in Scotland. And we weren't supposed to go to Scotland, so we ended up spending a night in Scotland for a day. And that was actually pretty interesting because we lost a day of shooting. But that's the kind of stuff we were dealing with all the time. And just something we just had to deal with and get the job done. So I remember that. It stuck with me. It doesn't happen very often when your plane actually lands somewhere it wasn't supposed to go.
Yeah.
Christina?
For me, like the other guys were saying, incredible scenery. Iceland was just amazing. But more than that, it was, for me, the people. Working with these amazing people, the cast, the crew, everyone who sat here, the guys down there, the people that you don't see on camera. And just incredible experience, and like through all these things, the plane going to a different location, losing a day of filming, people, getting knocked out, all these, the weather, and even throughout that, everyone managed to keep a smile on their face, which was amazing. And even to the point where we started to nominate Chief of Morale for the day.
Chief of Morale.
Chief of Morale. So it would be their job to keep morale up. We'd play games. Click, click, bang, bang. Who's played that before? Click, click, bang, bang.
So that's
great game.
We'll put them in the next video game.
We'll play it later,
games.
Do it all together?
So it was a lot of fun. Everyone made it a really amazing experience.
That's great. Frank, I know we saw a photo of you and Kiki on set. I know you were out there a lot. But I mean, this whole project, you obviously, on the story side too. I mean, I'm sure working with Paul and sort of figuring out how this fits into the game. I mean, big project for you on multiple levels. What's the one thing that you've remembered thus far?
Well, I think you covered it a little bit, getting there and seeing that it's all realized and it's all real. I think, and Christina covered this, the family that they created on set, and it was, and sometimes it's a job and sometimes it is a family, and that's how it felt. But I think one of my biggest takeaways was Icelanders. Like, forget Iceland, like you've seen it. Icelanders are tough. Our driver, Ellen, she'd just be driving us along and we'd say, what's that lake? She'd say, that's the lake of the dead. What do you mean? It's full of the dead. And she wouldn't explain, and like, what is that? Lava hole. And Icelanders, they're tough anyway, but there's no signs or fences. Lava hole is just a lava hole in the middle of the street, and that's fine. Just walk around it, shake it off. And so that is a tough set of people. And Christina mentioned this earlier. That was literally the coldest June since records began in Iceland. So seeing the cast in tank tops with frozen fake sweat plastered all over them was pretty interesting. So I think they got a little bit of that Icelandic toughness as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, sounds like it was a good experience. If you guys want to start lining up, we got some questions, I guess. We'll get to those. But want to mention a couple things before we get to the questions. First of all, these guys are going to be doing a Nightfall signing over at the Manchester Grand Hyatt. Xbox has this massive kind of lounge where you can play a bunch of games and see things that aren't even on the show floor here. And later today from 3 to 4 o'clock, David, Mike, Christina, Alex and Christian will all be over there doing a signing. So if you guys want to go over there, you can meet these guys a little bit later today. And then tomorrow, right back here at Comic-Con, there's going to be a panel on the actual Master Chief Collection game. That team will be here tomorrow from 10:15 to 11:15 in this exact same room, actually, talking about the game and showing off some new stuff tied to that game, which comes out in November and is your key to unlocking Nightfall. So come back tomorrow for
or just
that.
stay here for 24 hours.
Exactly. Just hang out. There's some other panels, but more Halo on the front end. And then finally, after the Q&A, stick around because we have a very cool limited edition Xbox One Master Chief Collection console that someone in this audience is going to win. So. Exactly. One of you, so don't leave your seat. But let's get to some Q&A right now. It looks like there's a long line, so we've got around 10, 12 minutes, so let's get into it. Looks good, right? Stick around. Go ahead.
Hi. So we're back on the original Halo. Are we going to see any of the stranded aliens from the first game there?
That is a fantastic question. I plead the fifth.
Smart audience.
There's going to be a lot of familiar danger on the artifact itself that is created by the landscape, but I can't say much more than that.
All right, thanks.
Awesome. Next question.
This question is directed for Mr. O'Connor. It's currently 2014. Halo Combat Evolved came out in 2001. Your thoughts? And also, like, in retrospect, did you think this franchise was going to get this big and gone in this direction? Thank you.
I started out with Halo just like you guys as a fan. I mean, I was working in the industry, but I was not working at Bungie at the time. I didn't start until 2003 with Halo 2. So in a lot of ways, I'm really very excited about this anniversary this year. Did I think it was going to get this big? Yeah, because I was playing Halo the same as you guys were, and I was in this world and looking up at the sunlight through those trees and looking at that beautiful environment. You know, when you first spill out of the Bumblebee crash pod, I think a lot of the people in this audience had that same feeling where this world just opens up. And one of the things I'm most excited about in Nightfall, and one of the drives that when we were breaking the story in the first place, is to put people in that environment, but in a piece of filmmaking. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about on November 11th.
Cool. Thank you. Next question.
Hello. Thank you for coming to the panel, first of all. I think this question is directed mostly towards Kiki. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the collaborative relationship between 343 and Scot-Free, like what you guys bring to the table, what Scot-Free brings to the table, and how those kind of come together to form a final product.
Yeah, absolutely. So 343 brings tequila to the table. Scot-Free brings
First and foremost.
intelligence and manners to the table.
Frank brought chocolate to the tent.
No, we felt so fortunate. We were introduced to David through Nancy Tellem because they had a long working relationship in the past. And it's one of those things where there was just we immediately sort of hit it off. You kind of do this sort of process of both understanding what kind of project you could do together, but also understanding, how you could work together. And I think, one of the most interesting meetings for us was certainly that very early initial meeting with David and with Ridley and kind of talking about how we think about the Halo universe and the things that excite us, and then really hearing from them sort of what they found to be interesting. And I think it's been a really interesting and fruitful collaboration because David and his team are very comfortable stating how they feel and the things they think work and don't work, and
vice versa.
And so, I feel like it's been a really open conversation, and they push back on things that, they feel maybe is getting shoehorned in, and we push back on things that we feel are sort of important to reflect in the story. And ultimately, it feels like we've come out with really something sort of unique. Do you want to?
I mean, just reflecting a little bit what I said earlier, and again, drafting off of Kiki's answer, I think in any adaptation, and this is a unique adaptation when you're adapting a game, not a novel or some existing story, is to be given latitude, be given the opportunity for Paul when he was conceiving the piece, and Sergio as he starts trying to realize the visualization of the piece, to be able to venture and discover. And the great thing was to be able to do that in lockstep with Kiki and Frank and their team, so that if we were veering far off course, they would throw up a cautionary flag, but at the same time they were constantly informing, educating, encouraging, and so it was a really ideal marriage, which is what it really turned into. And hopefully, the result will reflect that with grand, spectacular, exhausting success. But it was a relationship that I know we enjoyed a ton. And I mean, honestly, in the entertainment business, I think there's always been some trepidation. There's been so many approaches that have been made historically between games and film and television. We're seeing a lot of it now and a lot of successful versions of it now, but you never really know until sort of you get into the room, like Kiki was saying, and sit across from one another and say, well, what do you want to accomplish from this? And then you kind of build your story from there.
I think the biggest thing was Scott Free, they brought as much passion to the project as we sort of felt, and I think that really was the thing that we were attracted to, was everyone is doing it because they wanted to tell a great story.
Cool. Awesome. Next question.
Hello. My only question is, are you a friend or foe of Master Chief? I've been watching your videos so much.
That's a really good question. I can't give away anything on that. That's going to be something I'm going to defer to Kiki or Frank, because I can't really say one way or the other.
Frank's just smiling.
Now, we're going to answer that in this very room more than a year from now.
Stay tuned. Good question, though. Next up, go ahead.
Hi, questions for Frank O'Connor. Is there anything else you can tell us about, kind of the Cedra, not knockoffs, but they have the Condor as opposed to the Pelican. Yeah. Pelican. As opposed to the Pelican.
You should just call it a Pelican. It's like a Black Hawk. I would not get in one. They're not safe. Pelican's fine.
Not the Pelican.
The Cedrons are, in some ways, they're using a lot of abandoned and mothballed UNSC equipment. They're poor, so they have to make do with what they have. They're sort of they're doing better in the sort of lull of the Covenant War, but some of their resentment is built on the very equipment that they're forced to use, and the medical technology and the science that's available to them as this slightly poorer outer colony world. So you'll see plenty of stuff, and you see lots of Halo props in there for sure.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you. Next question. Are you allowed to play Halo?
I had a question. What kind of aliens are we going to see in Halo 5 and Nightfall? Like, any Prometheans, any new aliens?
Yes. Nightfall I'm not going to talk about because there's some plot things that we don't want to give away, but Halo 5 is going to feature new stuff and returning favorites. So.
All right, next question.
First of all, I would like to say I am so pumped for this. I saw the announcement for this and I lost my mind. I ran around my room screaming.
Wow.
So my question is, I know my friend Jake asked if we can see new aliens, but can we see more anatomy and structure of existing aliens? Because I know in Forward Unto Dawn, we saw a little bit of the elites, but that's about it. And I was a little bit disappointed, but I mean,
You gotta deliver for
I
him.
want to see Covenant in Nightfall.
Yeah. One way or another, you'll run screaming from your room again on November 11th.
All right, that's good. That's always
Tell
good.
Jake whether you're happy or sad about that. But I mean, there's two things at play here. One is this stuff that we're not talking about that you're going to see in Halo Nightfall that should make you happy. And the other is on Xbox One, you're going to have more fidelity and better graphics. And yes, you're absolutely going to see more and better anatomy on things, and that's just the nature of the console industry. So.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Next.
So this is a question for Frank O'Connor. I'm curious, since you said, the colony is using somewhat older equipment, and clearly we have characters wearing Mjolnir armor, are we going to see the older Spartan 2s? Or are there going to be Spartan 4s?
So you're not seeing any characters in the stuff we've shown wearing Mjolnir armor. They are wearing armor out of Songnam, where some of the Mjolnir stuff is made, and there's a lot of industrial design that's sort of concurrent between ODST and Marine and Spartan armor, but you haven't seen any Spartan armor in Nightfall. You will see some new Spartan armor on lock in Halo 5, and I can't really say too much about that because it's spoilery plot stuff. So.
All right, next up.
Hi. I was watching one of the Halo 5 Guardians trailer, and you can see the Arbiter talking to Locke, and they seem to have like something really tight going on. So I was wondering if maybe we see the Arbiter in Nightfall.
How was your brief relationship with the Arbiter so far?
Talking to me? Or
Yeah.
Oh, in
the E3 trailer. Yeah. We'll expand upon that relationship in the future, I think. Yeah.
We'll do a lot of talking, the Arbiter and I.
You and Keith, tight.
Hi, I was wondering how the past live action stuff has kind of influenced and inspired the new stuff, because obviously the old stuff was kind of small scale, and now we've seen Forward Unto Dawn and now Nightfall coming out.
Great question for Kiki.
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of have dipped our toes in the water a little bit in terms of starting to explore characters in different ways through dramatizing these stories in live action. And so, with Forward Unto Dawn, we spent a little more time with a set of characters, but really in a fairly sort of closed environment, sort of a safe environment for us to explore that. And really, this is a sort of bigger step in terms of scope and scale, and I think in terms of complexity of character interaction that we explore. As Frank mentioned, there's sort of the politics behind the scenes and really getting to dig a little deeper into Oni, but I think more so than that is really looking at these character dynamics and what it means for these people to come together. And I think that's where we kind of really took it to the next level, which is how do you really connect with these characters, and how do you connect with the things that are motivating them and the things that are challenging them.
And also maybe worth mentioning Josh Feldman, who produced Forward Unto Dawn, helped out on this project in a key man way, and Clayton Kruger from Scott Free, also two other behind-the-scenes people that Christina mentioned.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we are unfortunately out of time here, but we do have that console giveaway, so actually have it here. This is actually what you're going to win right here, the Master Chief console. Take a look at that. Pretty cool. And the way to find out who won is look under your seat. Someone is going to have a UNSC patch. Check. Oh, I have no idea where.
Oh,
we found it. We found our winner.
Come on up.
Come on down to claim your console. Make sure to go to the signing this afternoon, the Master Chief panel tomorrow right here in this room, and then November 11th, Master Chief Collection comes out, and that's when your Nightfall experience begins on Xbox One. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. Thanks, everyone on the panel. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
I get one with